Hey there! So I'd like to review a book that I read, I finished a couple of days ago. It's called These Silent Woods by Kimi Cunningham. It's been pretty popular here on Book Talk, and I finally had the chance to read it. So I thought I'd give it a review. So the book opens with the image of a man with his daughter, his 8-year-old daughter, and they're out in the woods in their cabin. You kind of assume that they're probably camping out there, but it is the beginning of winter, and they are tending chickens, which gives a hint that maybe their stay there isn't transient. And his daughter Finch is 8 years old. She's quite precocious, speaks very eruditely, like she's an adult. And initially, nothing really piques your suspicion until you kind of realize that they have a whole life set up there and there's no one around. The only contact they have with another human being is a man named Scotland, who's an old guy who lives a few miles away. He's a former priest, and Cooper doesn't trust him because Scotland, when he first met them 8 years ago, when they first moved there, he brought a couple of newspapers over to show Cooper, and these newspapers had stories about Cooper himself in them. So Scotland knows exactly why they are out there, and you find out that Cooper's not his real name either. And so then you kind of figure, well, they are there because Cooper did something, and he ran away with his daughter. So they are hiding out in the woods. And of course, the suspense in such a story comes from the question of whether they're going to get caught. Also, what is it that Cooper actually did? This is revealed over the course of the book, and you find it's quite a harrowing thing that he did, and there were reasons why he had to run with his infant daughter, who is now 8 years old and spent her entire life in the wilderness with no contact with any other children at all. I think what makes this book so great is the setting. The setting becomes a character in and of itself. It's the wilderness, the woods, which are desolate, which are devoid of human life. It's winter, it's cold, sounds are suspicious, lights are suspicious, any kind of human activity is suspicious to Cooper, because any kind of suggestion that there could be something out there other than the two of them means that their life is going to be threatened. Their idyllic life, their secret life in this cabin could be threatened and implode. It was clear to me that this author has some experience in the wilderness. I mean, her descriptions were exquisite. She had details in there about the wildlife, about sounds that the snow makes on branches, about what that kind of environment looks like in the dead of winter. It was very clear that she's either spent time in the wilderness, or she grew up there, has relatives there. There's some experience that she had, because even with research, you couldn't write such a detailed, brilliantly constructed story in such a setting without some experience. The other gem in this book was Finch. She is only 8 years old, but she speaks like an adult. She's erudite, she's whip smart, she calls her father Cooper, and she talks to him like she's a fellow adult, and he treats her as such. She's had no experience, no exposure to other children, so all she knows are the many books that she's read there in the cabin, which belonged to a friend of Cooper's. And she deals with very adult situations. Cooper is an Afghanistan war veteran and has panic attacks, and she's had to learn to navigate those and to try to understand what her father's experience was during that war. So after dodging a lot of threats and dangers over the last 8 years, one thing happens, a very small thing, that threatens their entire existence. I really love the twist at the end of this story. I've read a few reviews, and some people don't like it, others do. I loved it, and I thought it was a really poignant way of bringing this story to the close that I think it deserved. This writer, Cunningham Grant, is very skilled, very talented, and she had a very interesting story set in the correct environment, and she pulled it off with aplomb. So These Silent Woods by Kimi Cunningham Grant. Read it if you haven't had the chance to.